Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Today we are up to Daf Zayin in Avodah Zarah. We start from Daf Vav Amid Beis by the two dots. On the bottom, it's around 8 lines from the bottom. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Nifra Mehen. Even though you're not allowed to do Masa Matan, you're not allowed to do Alvois, you're not allowed to do She'ela, but you could force them to pay back a loan, according to Rabbi Yehuda, because it's a tzar. Nobody wants to have to pay back, the pressure of paying back a loan. So there's no chashash that he's going to go thank his Avodah Zarah once the loan is paid up. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda, doesn't he hold that we have to suspect that Agami has tsar in the moment that he's forced to pay back, but he's going to be happy afterward, and that happiness that is generated from this payment afterward is going to lead him to thank the Avodah Zarah. And we should be suspicious of that. Doesn't Rabbi Yehuda hold of that? A woman is not allowed to put sid on her face in chalamoid. It's a gnai. It's a gnai for the woman to put sid on her face. It's a tsar also. Nobody likes it to put all that cream on your face. You ever see, people with cream on their face and it hardens and you stay there. I guess it's good for the complexion or whatever other reasons they put it. If you can take it off on chalamoid, it doesn't stay there for a couple of days until afterwards, then it's okay. Then she is allowed to smear it on her face in chalamoid, even though right now it's a tsar to her, but we take into account the simcha that comes as a result of this tsar in chalamoid, so mamela, we allow her to do that. Asks the Gemara, so this is Rabbi Yehuda's opinion when it comes to chalamoid, with a woman putting out tzid on her face. So even though she's b'tzar right now, simcha afterward allows her, right? We take into account the simcha that's generated from that tzar. So here too, we should take into account the simcha that's generated from the tzar that the guy has, that he has to pay back. And he's going to thank his Avodah Zarah for that. The truth is, everything about chalamoid, right? Everything about yantiv, right? You're allowed to do it. Right? You're allowed to cook on Yom Tov. You're allowed to do all kinds of malachas. The reason is because it leads to simcha. So that is the general rule by chalamoyed. But the piroin, when you force a guy to pay back a piroin, so as long as there's tsar in the moment, so we don't assume that the simcha afterwards is going to cause the guy to go thank his Avodah Zarah on his holiday. Okay. So the Gemara, no, he's never happy. That was once he has to pay back. Ravina says, Rabbi Yehuda holds there isn't even simcha la'achar zman. It's not just that there's simcha la'achar zman, but he's not going to thank the Avodah Zarah for it because he was b'tzar, b'shas ma'is, and b'shas the piroin. He's never going to come to simcha. He's no simcha. A guy pays back a loan, and he's always lamenting about the fact that he lost that money. So the Gemara Masnisa, there's another third shita, which is not mentioned in our Mishnah. It's not like Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. We just finished Masechta Shavuos, right? In the first paragraph of Masechta Shavuos, Rashi famously says over there that Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha was the son of Rabbi Akiva. Taisim B'chayris argues a big machlokes Rishonim whether Yeshua ben Karcha, right? Because Rabbi Akiva was bald, kireach, so he was the son of the baldy. Taisim B'chayris says, can't be that. That's how we call Rabbi Yeshua ben the baldy. It's not b'chavadik. It's not for sure not Rabbi Akiva. But anyways. This Mishnah is not like Rabbi Yeshua Karcha. The Tanya, Rabbi Yeshua Karcha, milva b'shtar ein efron mehen. Right? If it's milva b'shtar, then you don't force a guy to pay back. Why not? Because if it's milva b'shtar, the guy has proof. Right? The Yid has proof that he owes him the money. So if he's forced to pay back, he's happy because he knows he would have had to pay it back because there was proof against him. But milva al pen efron mehen. Neshikamatzel. I'm sorry. The other way, milva b'shtar ein efron mehen. He has proof. So if he has proof, then you can do it afterwards, right? If he delays the chayv, the piroin chayv, the collection of that debt, there's no fear, there's no chashash that he's not going to be able to get it later. But because there he's going to deny it after a while. So as long as he's willing to pay back right now, you better take your money because you can't prove it afterwards. You can never prove it. Yosef Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Kamei Yosef Kamer Hilchasa, Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, Hilchasa Rabbi Yehuda. Hilchasa like Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha and like Rabbi Yehuda. What does that mean? Hilchasa Rabbi Yeshua had Amoran. That what? That you're allowed to be matzil, milva peh, you could force a guy to pay you back. Rabbi Yehuda d'tnan, anois in tzemer latzaba, letzboya loy odom et tzvoya shacher, or shacher tzvoya odom is a mission of Baba Kama, that if a guy gives a piece of wool to an uman, to a professional to dye it, right, to color it, and he told him, color it red, and he ended up calling it black, or vice versa. He said, color it black, he colored it red. Rabbi Meir says, then the uman has to replace that piece of wool with a brand new, clean piece of wool that is not painted at all. Rabbi Yehuda says no. If after he dyed the tzemer, the wrong color, now it's worth more than it was previously worth, then, right, the shvach is yeser al yitzia, the improvement is worth more than you give the balat tzemer the yitzia. Nois yitzia. You give him the yitzia, whatever the guy spent, you pay the uman whatever the cost price is for the dye. If the yitzia is more than the shvach, then you give him the shvach. So you give him the lesser amount. So in that machlokes Rabbi Yehuda, he says the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. Adrina Rav Yosef Lapei, Rav Yosef turned around angrily and he said, Bishlam halacha m'shu b'karcha itzdrach. If you're telling me halacha is like m'shu b'karcha, I understand. Okay, it's a chiddush. They say, doesn't matter if it's a milva apel milva shtar, you can never force a guy to pay you back before Yom Tov. So kamash malon, halacha kari yachid. This is a chiddush that you're telling me, and this machlok is, the halacha is like a yachid like m'shu b'karcha. Ela halacha Rabbi Yehuda lamali. Why do you tell me halacha like Rabbi Yehuda? Pshita, it's pashat. Well, you have to review. If you're telling me a chiddush, good. If you're not telling me a chiddush, stay quiet. So what's the chiddush in the halacha, in the fact that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda? I would have known it myself. Why? Because machlok is v'chakach stam. Hilchasik stam. Anytime Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, when he was beside the Mishnayos, he put a Mishnah with a machlokes, and then after that Mishnah, he put another Mishnah that was soisim the machlokes, like one of the shittas, like one of the opinions. Halacha is kastam. So here, with this machlokes of Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, it's a machlokes v'chakach stam, because machlokes is Baba Kama, and the stam Baba Metzia. Stam is Baba Metzia. Nan kol mashana yodalach atachtoina. So it says clearly that the balabayas pays the lesser amount. The uman has the yodoy ala tachtoina, he gets the lesser amount. So it's already stam like Rabbi Yehuda after the machlikas is mentioned previously. Baba Kama, so I know that Allah is like Rabbi Yehuda. So what are you telling me? Allah is like Rabbi Yehuda. It's not a chiddush. For Rav Huna, what is Rav Huna thinking? What's Rav Huna's thought process? Why do you have to tell him? Mishum the ein seder la mishnah. Teika la meimer. Stam tana bereisha v'chakach machlekes. There's no seder in the way Rebbe learned the Mishnayos. There's Talmidim. There's no real seder in that sense. And Mamela, we don't know which one was Stam, which one was first. Stam was first, and machlekes was first, and that's why Rav Huna had to pass and tell you that Allah is like Rabbi Yehuda. Ihachi asks the Gemara, if you hold like that in this machlekes, you have to tell me Allah is like Rabbi Yehuda because you never know. You never know how Rebbe learned or how Rebbe taught the Mishnayos, there's Talmidim, whether the machlokes that he put into Shas, into the Mishnayos, they say the Mishnayos first and then Stam after, was that the order Rebbe taught it to his Talmidim? If you never know that, so how can you have a klal of Yachi, kol machlokes v'achach stam, lema ein say the Mishnah, say the same thing. You can never rely on machlokes v'achach stam based on how it's Masuder in our Gemara and our Mishnayos, because perhaps Rebbe taught it to his Talmidim differently. No, when do we say that ein seder l'mishnah? That's only by one masechta. Betrei masechta amrinan. There, it's trei masechta, two different masechtas. There, avada, you're going to say ein seder l'mishnah, and we don't have the klal of machlikas v'achakach stam. So Rav Huna had to tell me the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda because there's no hechrich that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda from machlikas v'achakach stam. Why? Because it's two masechtas. So in two different mesechtas, Baba Kama and Baba Metzia, you can't spar, you can't prove, or you can't apply this general klal of machloikas first in Baba Kama and Stam and Baba Metzia, because they're two different mesechtas. You don't say machloikas v'achastam in two different mesechtas, only in one mesechta. For Rabbi Yosef, so what's Rabbi Yosef getting angry about? Rabbi Yosef says, no, kula nazik nechad mesechti. Baba Kama, Baba Metzia, Baba Basra is all one mesechta, so therefore, the general rule of machloikas v'achastam still applies over here, so I didn't need Rav Huna to tell me the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. Or another teretz, why Rav Yosef got angry and he said it's not a chiddush to pass like Rabbi Yehuda, because that Mishnah Bab Metzia that mentions the halacha of Kalamashana, Yod Latachtainu, like Rabbi Yehuda, is amongst a list. It's another psak in a list of a bunch of psakim. So Mamela, I would have known that that's what the intention of Rabbi was, to paskin like Rabbi Yehuda. Yeah, so in other words, just you see from the context of the Mishnah is that Rabbi is bringing a bunch of psukim, Hayrois, and therefore he was passing like Rabbi Yehuda over there as well. This is the Gemara, Ton Rabbanon, let's meet Matzah Shabbos, right? And Nishan Shabbos Gret, like in the Besmedr in the shuls. Yeah, we'll do some business. Yeah, so don't tell your friend, let's meet this evening. Let's meet this evening. And why not? Because steht im Posuk, you're not allowed to speak the same way you speak on Chayil, you're not allowed to speak on Shabbos. You could say it. Why? Because not saying Mefurish, just saying let's meet Matzah Shabbos. He's not mentioning Baruch B'tcha Ktana, as they say, right? Mefurish explicitly that he means business. As long as you don't mention a Mefurish, that's okay. Guy asks a shaila to a chacham. And v'timei, chacham says to Talmud, lo yishlo chacham v'yitar. Don't ask the chacham afterwards, another chacham, right? Another chacham afterwards, to get a psak to be matar. Lo chacham v'osar, let's say he asked a chacham aserd, right? Lo yishlo chacham v'yater. So if the chacham was matamer aserd, don't go and look for a heter or for a psak of tahira, of tar. What about there were two chachamim in the Besmedrash, and each one blurted out their psak halacha. One says tam and one says tar. Echad oisv, echad matam. One says osir, the other says mutter. If one person was greater than his friend, b'chacham of a minyan, then you should paskin like him. V'emlav, and if not, halech achar machmir. Then you should always follow the machmir. But when it's negeya concerning Isser D'Oraisa, if there are two chachamim, one says mutter, one says aser, always go after the machmer. B'shel seifrim, if it's Rabbanan, aleich achar mekel, you can go after the mekel. Omer Rav Yosef, halacha hilchas akar b'shul karcha. Ton Rabbanan, b'chul chaz v'chaneim kabel islam is all the gazlonim and the maratzim that were chozer b'tshuva. You cannot be machzik them as chaverim, as balei tshuva, as tzadikim, to trust them in divrei halacha, right? So, for example, let's say guys in Amoritz and you buy from him the halachas, you have to be meiser d'mai, right? So you have to give him, you have to keep him in that chazaka forever and ever. If they did tshuva in hiding, then you're not makabel them. Why? I guess because it's not too hard. Like nobody knows he did tshuva, so it's not too hard to go back to where you were in the public eye. Because in the public eye, you never became a tzaddik. But for Hesia, makabel and if they did tshuva, but for Hesia, then they have a cheskes kashrus and you're makabel them. Ikad amri also devren matmonius makabel noisan. The other way around. If the aveirus they did was beseiser, then you makabel them. But if it's verhesia, ain makabel noisan, then you're not makabel them if it's beferhesia. They did it beferhesia because Rashi says hoyle pakru kolkach. They became so hefker, right? Even in the eyes of the public, they don't even care what people think about them. Shuv ein noisnan libon. Loshev b'tshuva shleima. Rashi says a person who has the audacity in the public eye to become a Rasha Marusha, then it's not so mistaber that he is noisen lev Loshev b'tshuva. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Shimon Karcha Omrim, bein kach mekabel. No, you always mekabel them. Shneemar shuvu bonim shoivavim. Shuvu bonim shoivavim. Rashi says shoivav means mashma mezidim of farhesia. Doesn't matter how far a yid went, even if it was a mezer of farhesia, even if he rebelled, loshen merid v'gava. Rashi says still you mekabel them. Omer b'yitzchak ish kafar Omer Rabbi Yochanan. Hilchas ka'osei hazog. It's like Rabbi Shimon Karcha and Rabbi Shimon who say that shuvu bonim shoivavim. So the Mishnah, Rabbi Shmuel Omer, go weiter over here. Right? So far we had in the previous Mishnah a din that you're not allowed to do masa matan with goyim 3 days before their official holiday. Rabbi Shmuel says not just 3 days before, shloisha lefneim ushloisha la'achreim, even 3 days after. V'chachamim oimrim lefnei edeyen asur, and la'acharei dayan mutter. That before it's aser and afterwards it's mutter. So machlekes v'shmuel the chachamim whether the shloisha yomim la'achreim is also aser or not. Asks the Gemara, Omer after Chalifa Barav Dimam Shmuel, Yom Rishon, any guy that celebrates Sunday, right, serving the sun on the first day of the week, which is Sunday, it's what's called Sunday. So l'divrei Bishmuel lo'elam aser. So according to Bishmuel, aser is 3 days before and 3 days after. So the whole week is going to be aser. Why? Because Sunday is the Yom Eid, that's the holiday itself. Go back 3 days, which is aser. So that's Saturday, Friday, Thursday. 3 days after Sundays, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So the whole week becomes aser. Chacham say no, only lefnei day, but not afterwards. Chacham man Tanakama asks the Gemara. That's the Tanakama of our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says, according to Tanakama, right, that you are not allowed to do Masa Matan 3 days before the Yom Tov. So what's the Chacham? What are the Chachamim adding over here? So the Gemara is going to say a couple of options in how these Chachamim are different than the Tanakama of the first Mishnah. The Gemara says, and below Yedein Ikabenayu. Machlokes the Chacham Tanakama is the 3 days before Yom Tov, before their holiday, doesn't include the holiday itself. The number 3 includes 2 days before and the holiday, which is 3, or 3 separate days before the holiday. Right? Tanakama says, and below Yedein. Tanakama holds, the Mishnah earlier holds, that it's the 3 days without the holiday itself. So it's 4 days altogether. Rabbanu Basroi Savri, hen Ve'edein, it's 2 days before and the holiday itself is counted as part of the 3. Iboy Seima. What if you violated the halacha of doing business 3 days before the holiday and you made a profit? Is he allowed to have enough of it or not? That's the machlekes. Tanakama says it's mutter. Rabbanan Basroi say it's aser. Iba is the Shmuel kevanai. Damar Shmuel bagoyle ein aser elyon edom. Tanakama islay the Shmuel. Rabbanan Basroi less the Shmuel. So the Chutz La'aretz Shmuel holds that there's no din of 3 days prior. Only the holiday itself is aser, but not 3 days before. Why? Because they're not as adukin to Avodas Kechavim. They're more liberal, right? They're not as religious. Whatever religion. They're not as oduk Avodas Kechavim. So Mamela, there's no chashash that if you do a business deal 3 days before, that they're going to go be moidel Avodas Kechavim on the holiday itself. That's the holiday itself. That yes. So Shaila is machlokes Tanakama and the Chachamim over here is bid the Shmuel, is in Shmuel. Gemara says another possibility of what the machlokes Tanakama and the Chachamim is. Iba Seima. The Nocham Amodi Ika Benayu. The Tanya will learn in the Braisa. Nocham Amodi Yoimeir. Eino Yosur. Elo Yoimechod Lefnei Yedeyen. Tana Kama Leslie B'Nocham Amodi. Rabban Basroi Islu B'Nocham Amodi. Truth is, Chacham don't say 3 days. They say Lefnei Yedeyen. The Gemara wants to say that maybe the Machlekes is Lefnei Yedeyen. It's not 3 days. Machlekes Tanakama in the Mishnah and Rabban Basroi is what? Is whether it's just 1 day or 3 days. Whether we hold like Nocham Amodi or not. Okay, we'll stop over here. By Gufo.